Noel managed to get by in his work life, despite his reading and writing difficulties. But he did feel the lack of these skills from a young age.
My first few years of working experience, I didn't seem to need any reading and writing skills. So I was 17, 18, with socialising and in conversation with people. And that's when I realised then how I missed this reading skill that I didn't have. So that was really when I found it an issue. I had my own business in England for 6 or 7 years, was involved in building work and landscaping, and I'd be working all day on the sites, and nights then doing invoices would take a lot longer to do because I'd be working to 3, 4 o'clock times some mornings getting invoices put together because of my lack of reading and writing abilities. I had often had thoughts about night classes or something in that lines to do something about it, but the opportunity never arose. I was never in the one place long enough. Well, my sister looked into gathered information on the adult education scheme, and she'd found numbers beside us in Swords, and that's when she coaxed me along and gave me a slight push in the right direction, and away I went. As far as getting them first few steps back into education, it is a great help. You know, you're not doing it on your own completely. You've got someone behind you, and it does help an awful lot. There is preparation to learning as adults. You need to want to do it and prepare yourself, and it's like doing anything. It does get easier as you're practicing and you get used to studying. And I would sit down here at the table at night while it's quiet. The later the better normally. Kids are gone to bed. I would sit down and study, and out of way of the TV and anything to distract me. You have to have the environment which you're comfortable in to sit and study and learn.
This is Blanchardstown Library. It's a lively, active place with all kinds of learning going on. People learning languages, learning computers, parents and children enjoying books. People here to learn about gardening, fishing, football, you name it. But there are places in the library where you can get some peace and quiet. Because for successful learning, you need to focus, to concentrate, and to pay attention to your learning. And what you don't need are distractions.
Now then, we've looked at the person and we've looked a little at the process of learning. The next aspect is the environment. And the most obvious learning environment or place is a school.
But school is about more than bricks and mortar. It's a whole learning environment. All the people, places and activities here are designed to facilitate learning. The challenge for you is to create your own learning environment. Take support, for example. As an adult learner, the support of your family is important. They need to make allowances for you, to give you the space, the time, and most of all, the encouragement you need.
You might also like to consider how learning is organised in school. It's broken up into manageable chunks. Now that's something you might consider for your own learning. Make a plan, organise your study time, take it step by step. If you want to be really organised, do like every school does. Make a study timetable for yourself.
When a lot of things are happening, for example, on a particular day, then a timetable is a good way of organising them. The usual format for a timetable is that earlier times are at the top and later times are below. You'll notice that this timetable uses the 24-hour clock to indicate time. Most bus and train timetables use the 24-hour clock. Remember, noon is 1200 hours and 0000 hours is midnight. You can also use AM and PM. AM for before noon and PM for afternoon. When using the 24-hour clock in the afternoon, you don't say 1 PM or 1 o'clock in the afternoon. You say 1300 hours. What you do is you add 1 hour to 12 to get 13. Most people say 1300 hours. For 2 PM, you add 2 to 12 to get 1400 hours. In general, you add the number of afternoon hours to 12, so 6 PM is 1800 hours. To change from the 24-hour clock to PM time, the rule is take 12 away. So for 1400 hours, we take 12 from 14 to give 2 p.m. And for 1600 hours, you take 12 from 16 to give 4 p.m. or 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
Noel attributes much of his success to the individual attention and the guidance of tutor Catherine McElduff and to the learning environment provided by the Adult Literacy Scheme.
The feedback you get from the adult education scheme is much better than being in a classroom of 30, maybe 32, 33 children, and the teacher just couldn't find the time to talk to each individual child. And being on a one-to-one basis, which is pupil, teacher, or small groups where there might be 3-4 people, that would have more time and much better feedback than you would get in a classroom.
So the first one there is
2.
So what other way could you spell 2, or what other way could it
2.
mean?
It could mean 2 items, so 2.
Good. And how would you spell that?
TWO.
Good. So we just write it down below there.
Okay. I've been at classes now for about coming on 3 years now, and I feel well, I've just started a VTAC course now, a foundation course, and that will take me maybe a year or so to do that, with the one night a week that I go to the class and that. And then I hope to continue on with the second level of the VTAC, which is similar to a Leaving Cert, and I would continue on until I achieve that goal. I have no intentions of stopping at the moment, so going back to education and learning has made an awful difference to my life now. It's something to be able to pick up a book and read it now. When I get older, I will be probably in the house maybe more, and I like to maybe have a hobby of reading books, and it's just been wonderful. It makes an awful difference.
Have you ever noticed how if you're really interested in something, it makes it much easier to learn? And that brings us to the fourth aspect of successful learning, how information is presented and organised. If what you're learning is related to your life, it's going to mean much more to you. And if it means more to you, then it's going to be much easier to learn. Say you're a football fan, for instance. Just think about how easy it is to learn about your team, where they are in the league table, what their overall chances are going to be. Find ways to bring your learning to life. You'll find it much easier to develop your reading skills if you're working on something that you're interested in, whether that's TV soaps, detective stories, or Irish history. Look at these words. I began a night course last week. Now these. Table, cheese, always, toast. The first example is a sentence. It's a group of words that makes complete sense on its own. Whereas this group of words makes no sense at all. It doesn't make a sentence. To write a sentence correctly, you need to use the right punctuation. By punctuation, we mean capital letters, full stops, and so on. The punctuation is used to show people who read the sentence where it begins and ends. The rule is that every sentence starts with a capital letter and ends with a full stop, a question mark, or an exclamation mark. Here are some examples. Adult learners decide to learn. Have you got the workbook? Watch out! It's never too late to learn. If you want some ideas for writing sentences, you'll get plenty of them in the Read Right Now workbook.
If you'd like some help with anything we've covered in the programme, call 1-800 20 20 65. There's a team of specially trained tutors standing by to take your call, Monday to Friday, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. It's free and confidential, so call now.
Oh, Terry, there you are.
Oh, hi, Derek. I had a great time. This is a fantastic place. How did you get on at the school?
Well, I'll tell you what, why don't we sit down and recap on what we both learned today. Well, the first thing I learned about learning to learn is that as an adult learner, you have choices and a whole heap of life experience which you can harness to work for you.
We looked at some work on spelling and how adding an ending to a root word changes its meaning. By adding full to the root word play, we got playful. The part that's added to the end of the word is called a suffix. We took the root word enjoy and added different suffixes to make enjoyment and enjoyable.
Learning is an active process. For successful learning, you need to concentrate and focus on what you're doing. Give your learning the time and attention it needs. We also looked at measuring volume in the metric system.
Compare a pint to a litre. A pint is roughly half a litre. You use the letter L to indicate litres and ml for millilitres, which are 1/1000th of a litre. We showed some everyday examples of volumes of liquids. A 330 millilitre can of soft drink, 100 millilitres toothpaste, and of course, still not in the metric system, a pint of beer.
The learning environment is also very important, not just the physical environment, but the support and encouragement of family and friends. And you learn much better if your learning is organised, so make a plan and stick to it.
A timetable is one type of plan, and it often uses the 24-hour clock to indicate time. Using the 24-hour clock means that after 12 o'clock in the afternoon, you say 1300 hours for 1 p.m. and 1400 hours for 2 p.m. What you do is add the number of afternoon hours to 12. So 6 p.m. is 12 plus 6, or 1800 hours. A handy way of converting afternoon times from the 24-hour clock to AM and PM is to take away 12. So for 1400 hours, we have 14 less 12 to give 2 o'clock or 2 p.m.
Remember, it's much easier to learn if you're interested in the materials. So if you're trying to improve your reading, start with a book or a magazine on a subject that's of interest to you.
And if you're trying to brush up on your writing skills, remember that a sentence is a group of words that makes complete sense on their own.
We looked at these examples of sentences. To write a sentence correctly, you need the right punctuation. Adult learners decide to learn. Have you got the workbook? Watch out. It's never too late to learn.
That's it for this week. Next week, Terry?
We will be in the Curragh of Kildare, so until then, goodbye.
Bye.